You know, one thing I love the sound of is the sound of absolute defeat when it comes to Disney, and we are experiencing exactly that. So there was a recent little summit that was going on, and Disney's CEO Bob Iger was asked a whole bunch of questions within this little interview that happened, and he was unfortunately had to admit that woke content essentially did destroy Disney, and people kind of lost sight of what it meant to actually entertain people. Now we have an article here from Bounding Into Comics that kind of covers a little bit of what was said, with a headline that reads, Disney CEO Bob Iger admits that the company's recent output featured an overload of woke content and that creators lost sight of what their number one objective needed to be. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, Disney themselves, CEO Bob Iger, is admitting that the creatives over at Disney have lost complete sight of what they need to do as creatives. So let's get into the article, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. So it says, in a seeming expression of corporate humility, more than almost any that came before it in human history, remains to be seen to be believed, Disney CEO Bob Iger has admitted that the House of Mouse's recent productions focus far too heavily on social messaging and not enough on actually entertaining audiences. Now, just to piggyback off of that really quick, okay? So think of something like South Park. I'm glad they actually used this picture here. Think of something like South Park. South Park has a ton of social messaging, and it's never usually on just one side. South Park loves to message and make fun of everybody. Every single side they love making fun of. There's nobody that South Park can't make fun of. So South Park is a prime example of what it means to put social messaging into a TV show and actually still be entertaining and funny. That's the big difference between what something like South Park does and what something like Rings of Power did, what something like Witcher Blood Origin did, what something like Velma did, what something like anything that Disney created did, anything from Phase 4 and Phase 5 in the MCU did. That is the big difference between content like that and content like what we've been getting. It says the current steward of Disney's sinking ship made this admission while speaking to the New York Times' Andrew Ross Sorkin as part of the outlet's 2023 Deal Book Summit, an annual event wherein the aforementioned reporter hosts public interviews with a number of notable individuals from across the world's various industries. Amidst a general discussion with the CEO regarding the current state of the ever-changing movie industry, Sorkin eventually moved to ask Iger what he believed might be a political question. We were talking about environmental, social, and corporate governance investing earlier this morning with Chase Bank CEO Jamie Dimon, began Sorkin. Part of what happened while you were gone from the company was a number of films that were greenlit that people were describing as woke, with woke characters, a fight with DeSantis. By the time you got back, I know people saw images of this. There was a morning outside of Disney World where folks with swastika flags and DeSantis flags, anti-gay flags, and guns while families were trying to walk into the park. This all said, the host ultimately pressed Iger, I'm curious what you think has happened and how you as a company are supposed to deal with that, and what you feel like you can say and can't say given this remarkably polarized climate we're in. And I think this is a fantastic question. This last question here, I'm curious what you think has happened and how you as a company are supposed to deal with that, and what you feel like you can and can't say given this polarized climate. That last sentence right there is very important, because it's what you can't say. It's who you can't criticize, who has the power over the current social climate. That, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's see what CEO Bob Iger had to say about this. It says, clarifying as to whether or not Sorkin's inquiry was regarding the company's content or the stances it takes on social issues, and being met with the direct answer of both, the Disney CEO then explained, let me start with content and your comment about woke characters. Our primary objective in creating content as a company, say for ABC News, which is obviously to inform, is to entertain. Whether it's sports, whether it's Disney, whether it's Marvel, make things that entertain people. And the good news is that there's a marketplace out there that demands entertainment. It's a fantastic business to be in because of that. Well, you're absolutely right. There is a huge market that is demanding quality entertainment right now and is unfortunately being ignored by the likes of Disney. This is why Disney is in the predicament that they're in right now. They are actively choosing to ignore what everybody is saying online or in general. And that's honestly their fault. Whether or not Disney CEO Bob Iger actually recognizes this or not, it really doesn't matter, because ultimately what's being made is on the ground level, and he's not actually involved heavily in that like creation. He's not the Kevin Feige, he's not the Kathleen Kennedy, he's the CEO. So they're not going to him to say, hey, you got any story writing ideas? No, they're making the decisions themselves. So until those people admit what Bob Iger just admitted, nothing is going to change at all. And let's be real, Kevin Feige, Kathleen Kennedy, and all the bigwigs over at Disney, Lucasfilm, Marvel, everything, they're not going to change their mind. They're going to actively consider identity politics as first and foremost for everything that they do. This is why they have prioritized it for the last few years now. It says, turning to address the actual substance of their recent content, Iger asserted, I think what had happened over a period of time and was building a building, and maybe it reached a peak of some sort while I was gone, is that creators lost sight of what their number one objective needed to be. Exactly. I mean, look at the Proud Family. This is a perfect example. The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, this particular episode, the famous Slaves Built This Country episode, is a prime example of the difference between entertaining and just straight up literally virtue signaling and messaging. And this is what that is. Often when we entertain, and we've entertained as a company for over 100 years, we've been in business and we have entertained with values and with having a positive impact on the world in many ways. I use Black Panther as a great example of that, just in terms of fostering acceptance, or the movie Coco, which Pixar did about the Day of the Dead. He continued, I like being able to do that, entertain, and if you can infuse it with positive messages that have a good impact on the world, fantastic. But that should not be the objective. Well, here we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, how come when Bob Iger says it, suddenly it's perfectly fine and it's understandable? But when everybody on the internet has been saying this exact thing for the last 5 years or plus more years, we got called racist, we got called homophobes, we got called sexist, we got called every word that's possible to be used. We got called that, to the point where those words have no power anymore. And now Bob Iger is saying them, and suddenly, oh, it's okay, it's fine, it's Bob Iger saying it, so it's cool. He says, when I came back, what I really tried to do was return to our roots, which is, remember, we have to entertain first. The returning Disney executive concluded, it's not about messages. Again, if your story can have a positive impact, so there's that. And I've worked hard since I've been back in reminding the creative community who are partners, our employees, and that's the objective. And I don't really want to tolerate the opposite, so there's that. And while not specifically on topic of pop culture or entertainment, for those curious, Iger explained in regards to the company's stances on social issues, when it comes time to taking positions about issues, I have tried really hard over the years, and I'm not calling them politics, because a lot of them are not politics. Sometimes it's what is right and what is wrong. When it comes time to taking positions, I have tried really hard to apply a standard that asks, is this relevant to the company, to our people, to our company, to our shareholders? That's a very important test, he said. So if we take a position on the environment, we care about the health of our planet, it's because we believe that if the planet is not healthy, it'll be bad for business. People are not going to go to the theme parks if they can't breathe the air, for instance. That's not politics, that's just business. So if anyone has accused us of being political when it comes to that, they're just dead wrong. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, I can understand what he's trying to say towards the end of that. I get that. You can have social issues and take certain sides without inherently making it truly political. And I get the whole, oh, we're about the environment because it's good for business, blah, blah. I get that. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the indoctrination of children that Disney has 100% supported and has completely advocated for ever since the Parental Rights and Education Bill became a thing, and they suddenly tried to fight it after they wanted to remain neutral in the beginning. That is what a lot of people are complaining about, and that's where you lost the American family, Disney. I don't know if they're aware of that. I'm sure they are, but that is where they lost the family. The family realized that Disney is perfectly fine with indoctrinating children. Disney has a not-so-secret gay agenda, and that's not to say that gay people should not exist. Obviously, they've existed well before all this identity politics nonsense, but the problem is it is being weaponized. It is being weaponized by a radical group that is a very small minority but has the voice of a majority, and what they're doing is that they're actively using that voice to try to take your kids, essentially. They're trying to turn these kids into victims because misery loves company. These people don't want to admit that they went down a rabbit hole that's going to destroy their lives, so they want to make sure they bring as many people with them. It's kind of like a crabs in a bucket sort of a thing. So they don't want to be alone in that bucket. They want to bring as many people in there as possible. So if they can convince your kid through social messaging that, hey, they should probably cut their boobs off because that's a cool thing to do when you're 12 years old, then they're going to do it. And that's why Disney lost the American family. So unfortunately, even though Bob Iger is saying all the right things, because of course he's a CEO, he's going to say all the right things, he gets paid to do that. Even though he's saying all the right things, I cannot in good faith give Disney good faith because of what they've done over the last couple of years. They have clearly shown where they stand on actual political issues, not just sociological issues, not just good for business. No. Actual political issues. They have showcased that they have taken a strong stance for the indoctrination of children, and that I could never support. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.